What's up, guys? Back again for another great video, hopefully. I guess I'm presumptuous on saying it's a great video already, but I think it'll be a pretty good video. Trying a new look here. I'm trying a new angle with the camera, a new lens. I used to shoot on a 50mm all the time, and now I'm, a little wider on 18mm. And, yeah, on one of the last videos, I told you how my daughter said that I bought a TikTok light when I bought a ring light, and I was like, that's ridiculous. So I went to TikTok to see if she was correct or not, and now I have the same thing pumping in my head at all times. Whatever you say, boomer. Okay. Boomer, it won't leave my head. I only saw the video once because it was recommended to me, and it will not leave my head. Hopefully, never going to TikTok again, I won't have that problem. But I set up a TikTok account, and I don't know what to post on it. I think I'm getting old because I'm out of touch with the youth of today. Anyways, I'm rambling a bit. Let's roll that bumper and see what today's video has in store for us. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Boomer. So over the course of a little over a year of this YouTube channel being around, I've started to accumulate some relationships with different companies. At the forefront of those companies is probably Lume Cube. They usually send me all their new products, and I really enjoy a lot of their products, but that's not to say I've given unbiased reviews of their products. Their most recent project before today that I reviewed was a Lume Cube version 2, which I thought was great because it had a wider spread, didn't have the hotspot, and yeah, I'll leave a link in the video. I don't need to re-describe this product now. But when I reviewed their Lume Cube panel, I wasn't quite as nice as I revealed that you could buy the Photix for about $50 cheaper. They have since rectified that, and I think you can buy them for the same price now. It's a good light. It was just, if you could find the exact same, and I mean the exact same light for $50 cheaper, then why wouldn't you? But now it seems Lume Cube has come down $50 on the price. Again, I will leave a link to that video below. So what does that have to do with why I've made this video today? Well, Lume Cube has come together and made another light, another panel, and this time it's a little bit different than I expected. So this little itty bitty light right here actually has a lot going on under the hood. For one, they kind of took Aputure's lead on these diffusers. I really like these rubber diffusers a lot better than the old snap-on diffusers because they work better. But for now, I'm going to take it off so you can see the light a little bit better. Look how small this is. Like, look in my hand how small this light is. And it puts out a very, very good output. Not only that, it's bicolor. So where most lighting companies are kind of going on the RGB and making these little panels bigger and bigger, Lume Cube has decided to go the other way and make it smaller. And remember why we had these lights to begin with. Accent lighting. You can fit this little light anywhere, I promise. This is the smallest accent light, maybe next to the M9, but still, I think they're pretty much the same size, as I'll show you here in a minute. You can put this little guy anywhere, and it's bicolor, and you go through the range of bicolor. That is pretty cool to me, and it's really well made for an absolutely fantastic price. I think Lume Cube really hit it on the head, and I am going to compare it to some of the other lights that look like this. But before we do that, let's just take a quick overview of this light here. So it's got a little frost diffuser on the front, but I think the main diffuser obviously is this little rubber diffuser, which I took off. It has mounting points on the bottom and on the side, which is awesome because then you don't have to use some different apparatus to mount it to stands and whatnot. When you turn the light on, It has a battery indicator, which also tells you how long at your current brightness you have until the battery's dead, which is always handy. It has the brightness from 1 to 100%, and you can switch from daylight to tungsten. It's all pretty basic. We've seen it all before, but not really in this form factor, which is kind of awesome if you ask me. Also, with it being a modern light, it has USB-C, which I can't get enough of. I always love my USB-C. And it's only got 2 buttons. It's got a button to turn on and to change functions, and a scroll wheel knob. So it's pretty basic light, but like I said, the technology under the hood is fantastic. So now let's compare it to some of the other lights that are kind of in this form factor and see how this new light stands up to some of those older lights. So the first light we're going to compare this to is the probably one that comes to mind when you look at this, the Aputure M9, the first accent light I ever bought, and the light that really kicked off the accent light revolution. So when you look at these side to side, they're pretty much the same size. The Lume Cube light is a little bit thinner, while the Aputure light is a tiny bit less wide, while they seem to be the same in the Y-axis. I would probably say that the Aputure light's probably a little bit lighter, but it's a negligible amount. Another advantage for the Lume Cube is this is made out of metal, while the Aputure is made out of plastic, so this is going to be much more durable. Aputure went with the snap-on diffuser, which is always nice, but like I said before, I like the rubber one better. Now, obviously, this is a daylight-only panel, while this can do bicolor, but let's see how bright these are at daylight only. So surprisingly, since this was daylight only, I thought it would be brighter than the bicolor, but I was absolutely wrong. The Aputure M9 is about 74.3 lumens from 5 feet away, while in daylight mode, the Lume Cube Mini is 103 lumens. So just light to light, it's pretty obvious that the Lume Cube panel wins, but when you consider price, it makes it a little bit closer. Also, when you look at the Aputure M9, there's no way to mount this to anything, and so you have to bring in a separate apparatus that comes with the light, but it's just another thing you have to lug around, and then you can mount it to anything you want, where this on the Lume Cube is built in. All right, the next light I'm going to compare this to is a light that I said I would never say the name again because I hate the name of this light, but I'm going to compare it to the GVBGear GVBPL12. You got to come up with better ways to name your lights, guys. Come on. That is just a mouthful. How about the GVBGear Solo or the GVBGear Mini or, you know, something like the Lume Cube Panel Mini? The GVB, as I'm going to further call it, is a light that tried to replicate the Aputure M9 and give it a little more juice. So it's a little bit brighter than the Aputure M9, but it falters in other ways. It's a much cheaper plastic. When I say the M9 is built out of plastic, it's pretty good plastic. When I tap on it, it's a nice plastic. With this one, on the other hand, it's a cheap plastic. That being said, it hasn't broke on me, so there's that. This, again, can only do daylight, while this is tungsten, so I'm only going to navigate through the daylight waters on this. It's also got just a snap-on diffuser. Also, when it comes to mounting, there's really no way to mount this to anything. It has a little cold shoe adapter, so if you have one of those hot shoe to cold shoe mounts, it'll work for that. But otherwise, you need, again, a separate apparatus, which always drives me nuts because I never have them around when I need them. So now it has a mounting point there. You can also put it in your hot shoe mount. All right, we've equaled this with 2 items here. So when it comes to design layout, the side of this panel has a switch, 3 indicator lights to indicate how bright the light is going, and a scroll wheel. And then on the upside down here, it's got a USB micro slot. So all of this being on one side to me is just more sleek. I know a lot of people don't care about that kind of thing, but it just makes my life easier. And so yeah, let's put daylight to daylight and see which one holds up better. So because this is a daylight-only panel, it is a little bit brighter than the bicolor Lume Cube Panel Mini. The GVB is 129 lux, while, again, 103 for the Lume Cube Panel Mini. But when you consider the bicolor, the fact that it's about half the width of the GVB light, and the fact that it's made out of metal and not plastic, it's pretty easy for me to call this one for the Lume Cube Panel. Again, pricing makes this one a little bit closer, but it's harder to find this GVB light than it is the Aputure M9. So yeah. I'll let you make the decision yourself. Again, if you like any of these lights, I'll leave links in the description below. Also, I'd like to invite you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. The subscription really helps this channel. It's a metric that helps move this channel forward, and yeah, so if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. So the next light that I'm going to put this little bad boy against is the Sokani X21. This is the first light other than the Lume Cube Panel Mini that can actually claim to be made out of metal. but I wouldn't say the build qualities are equal because everybody I've ever met that has the Sokani X21 has button failure, including myself. I don't use this light that often, but I can only use it at 100% because the minus button there is out of function. At some point, I'm going to take it apart and see if I can fix it, but that time has not come yet. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's look at them side by side. You can see that the Lume Cube Panel Mini is much smaller than the Sokani in pretty much every aspect except for width. The X21 also is the first light so far that has a mounting port besides the panel, which is a plus. It still uses USB micro, which is okay. You can see the step up that the Sokani was trying to create because, again, it is another light besides the Lume Cube Panel Mini, the first so far that has an actual screen on the back. And again, I can't turn it down, so it's going to have to stay at 100%. And again, it's daylight only, so let's stack these up and see which daylight is brighter. I was expecting the Sokani X21 to be much, much brighter because of how big it is compared to the Lume Cube Panel Mini and the fact that it's daylight only, but it was actually kind of close. The Sokani X21 comes in at 116.3 lux, while again, the Daylight Panel Mini comes in at 103 lux. So it's really not that bad. When you consider everything else, this one's easy for me again, Lume Cube Panel Mini. And the price really doesn't change my mind because of the faulty buttons on the Sokani. Next up is another Sokani light, and one that I was most intrigued with because I thought it would be the closest in comparison to this light, and that's the Sokani X21 Pro. This is a bicolor LED panel, and while it is much, much larger than the Lume Cube light, I was still pretty fascinated to see which one was brighter and what. The Sokani X21 Pro has multiple mounting points, just like the Lume Cube panel, so it's a little closer there. It has a panel on the back. None of the buttons have failed on me so far, which is a plus considering the last Sokani light. And it also has USB-C, which is coming close. So you can see how I would see these lights as pretty comparable. It has the snap-on diffuser, which again, I don't like as much as these rubber diffusers. But given all the other stuff that the Pro has going for it, I want to see which one of these lights is brighter. So to my surprise, even though it is a much beefier light, it's not as bright in daylight as the Lume Cube Panel Mini. The Sokani X21 Pro comes in at 97.6 lux in daylight mode, while again 103 lux for the Lume Cube Panel Mini. Now this is the first time we get to compare tungsten functionality, so let's check that out. So when we flip it over to tungsten, it's a little bit closer with the X21 Pro coming in at 92.9 lux, and the Lume Cube Panel Mini coming in at 97 lux. Now, honestly, this one surprised me because this is about half the size when it comes to weight as this light. This light has massive heat sinks, and this one's so small that I just didn't think it would stand up both daylight and tungsten to the bigger X21 Pro. When it comes to price, they're neck and neck too, but the difference is I can no longer find this light. So something in the manufacturing process went wrong with Sokani because I can't find this light for sale anymore. If I can, I will leave it in the link below. So now's the headline event. You always got to end with the heavy hitter, and this is no different. Now we're going to get to the Aputure MC. Now this light is something that I love and it's dear to my heart. It has RGB, which the Lume Cube panel cannot match, but we're going to figure everything else out and see how they stack up other than that. Size-wise, again, the Lume Cube Panel Mini is just so small. I can't really convey that over the screen because it's just so tiny. The Aputure MC is a small light too, but it's about a third bigger than the Lume Cube Panel Mini. Again, it's got more under the hood, so, you know, I'll give them a pass on that one. From the side, you can see that they're very similar. They each have a button to turn them on. One is a switch and one is a button. And then a turning knob, with the Aputure MC also having a button programmed into the turning knob. They both have screens as well, but I don't like the fact that the Aputure MC's is on the top. I like them being on the back, so that way if they're up on a stand and they're up high, I can see it right on the back and I don't have to be taller than the stand itself. Because I'm not a very tall person and I don't like feeling short. It's not really an issue because Aputure has an app, while the Lume Cube panel does not. Other Lume Cube lights have an app, but this one does not. So you can see the readings on your smartphone and not have to look at the top of the light. Both have USB-C. Both have the built-in mounting port at the bottom. So let's get into it. Which one of these is going to be brighter in daylight and tungsten because they're both bicolor lights? So when it comes to daylight, surprisingly, The Lume Cube Panel Mini is actually brighter than the Aputure MC. The Lume Cube Panel Mini again comes in at 103 lux, while the Aputure MC comes in at 95.1 lux. Not a huge difference, but I was still surprised. Let's see if tungsten tells a different story. No, it does not. The Aputure MC comes in at 92.1 lux, while the Lume Cube Panel Mini comes in at 97 lux. Another point for the Aputure MC is the fact that it has magnets on the back, which I always love. Actually, for some of the B-roll for originally, I just stuck it to my mic stand right there. Oh, my mic's gonna fall over, but that's okay. And it just made life easier for me, so yeah. Now let's see what kind of shill I am. Which of these lights do I think is better? Well, obviously the Aputure MC is a better light because of RGB, but the Lume Cube panel is much cheaper, which makes it a little bit closer. It depends on what you want. Do you want a small accent light that's bicolor, or do you want one that's bicolor and RGB? That's up to you. I can't make these answers for you. All I know is these are both terrific lights. So that's going to do it for this video about the Lume Cube Panel Mini and all the other small video lights that I have laying around. Were you impressed with this little guy? Because I was. Let me know in the comments if you're impressed and if you want lights like these that still go back to the small form factor, or if you like the larger, more expensive RGB variants better. For me, I like all of them. I'm a lighting fanatic. I like having different tools for different situations, and I'm really glad Lume Cube came out with this panel for only a fraction of the price of some of these other bigger panels. And it also helps out the smaller filmmakers that can't afford some of these things and need a smaller footprint with brighter output. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that little like button down there. It's not gonna hurt you, at least right now in 2020. Maybe in the future, the YouTube algorithm will start punishing you and shocking you for liking the wrong videos. I'm not sure, but for now, it's okay. If you like what I do here, consider subscribing. Hopefully it will be worth that little click of the button and you'll get content like this more often. If you have any questions about this light or any other lights I've shown, or just want to berate me for wearing a beanie when it's 100 degrees outside, go ahead and hit me up in the comments below. As long as you remember, this ain't a competition. Let's all rise in this business together. I'll see you guys next time. Boomer.